You heard about the time he opened up the plane door, didn't you, on the small plane?
Jim was flying on. He didn't like flying the small plane.
I was afraid of the stand plane. It was a 7-passenger.
In that plane, we could have 7 wrestlers. One was a co-pilot. So we're flying down, and he never says anything. God, he kind of just sits and rocks. He's playing cards, and all of a sudden he goes, "Greg," that voice I hear is like this. He's what? I am meeting my fiance's family tonight. Would you ask the promoter if I can wrestle early on the card?
We're wrestling in Omaha, and he came up to me and he says to me, his son had gotten in trouble in Montreal.
His son was up in Montreal, got arrested for trying to rob a gas station. So they were either throw him in jail or Mad Dog had to come and get him. So we get in the locker room, and I see Mad Dog talking to Jim, and Jim gives him something.
And he said to me, "Jimmy," he said, "do you have any uppers?" I told him, I said, "Yes." And he says, I'm driving. When I get home from Omaha tonight, when we land in Minneapolis, I'm driving to Montreal, and I need something to keep me awake.
I said, "What are you doing?" Well, I gave him some speed, and I told him not to take it till tomorrow so he can drive all the way to Montreal and back. I said, "God, why would you give him that? Geez, are you out of your mind?"
So what happened was I gave him 2. I says, "This will be one for your ride there and one for your ride back."
Mad Dog comes over, and he's on the second match, and he wanted to thank me. And then I see him back over in the corner. I see him pop a pill with a pint of whiskey.
Unbeknown to me, he took one before his match, and he was sipping on Southern Comfort.
So he goes out, and he's not out for maybe 3 minutes, and he comes back in. I said, "What the hell are you doing back here?" "I killed that guy."
He wound up taking both of them before he got on the plane.
Oh, no.
And he drank a pint of Southern Comfort.
We drive over to the airport. We get there, and there's no Mad Dog and no Steve Olszanowski. All of a sudden, we see a cab pull out, and Mad Dog gets out, and he's kind of wobbling, and he's got barbecue sauce. They're at a rib joint, barbecue sauce on his beard, on his T-shirt. And I said, "Steve, what the hell happened?" He said, "Well, he took that speed, and then Adrian gave him some kind of a pill."
Adrian gave him a Quaalude.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so he took this Quaalude, and he was drinking wine on the plane.
So we get on the plane, and we put him in the back, and he's sitting next to Adrian. And we're playing cards, and apparently he said to Adrian, "I feel like flying tonight." And Adrian said, "Well, you can just jump out the door."
And all of a sudden, Mad Dog decides to open the door of the plane, flying, at 145 miles an hour at 6,000 feet. And he actually had the door open, and he had one foot on the outside.
And the pilot's yelling at us, "Who opened the door? Who opened the door?" And we look, and lucky, it was the only plane built that had 2 chains holding on to the stairs and to the window opening up.
Thank God that door was chained hard onto the fuselage, because if the door would have come off and hit the tail, it would have killed everybody.
He's hanging out, and all you can see is his back. And he'd turn in, and he says, "It's so peaceful, I feel like flying tonight."
I didn't even know this happened until next morning. I get a call from the secretary, Mary Louise, at the wrestling office. Said, "Jim Verne wants you to come in immediately."
So we're going, "Oh my God." And we look down, the runway is foamed. There's fire engines, ambulance, police cars, all the red lights going.
And he says, "Mad Dog," he says, "he took those pills you gave him." And he says, "He opened up the door." And I said, "Oh my God."
So he'd had all this, he'd had the speed, he had smoked a joint, he had wine, he had beer, he had a pint of whiskey, and who knows what else, whatever Adrian gave him.
Mad Dog was banned from the plane, and from that point on, I don't think that he got too many more main events. They were just a little scared of him. So.